Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this Joshua Pearce career mode here on F1 25. If you did miss the last episode, it was another terrible race weekend for ourselves. But Max Verstappen, on the other hand, he took a fourth straight win this season and is on fine form, turning his championship around. Norris would take something positive out of the race weekend for McLaren after Oscar Piastri suffered from an engine failure, and Yuki Tsunoda also made a double podium for Red Bull. And for ourselves, we had some good pace in qualifying, but unfortunately when it came to the race, it was just all gone, and we had a spin which resulted in a red flag, and unfortunately also ending the race to several of our competitors, and then another spin at the same corner which ended up ending our race. So going into this race weekend, Max Verstappen extends his championship lead to 32 points ahead of Lando Norris. Piastri is in third, 68 points behind. Myself in 8th, 12 points behind Charles Leclerc. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 11th, 8 points behind Pierre Gasly, and Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 24 points to McLaren. Ferrari find themselves in third, 85 points behind, and APXGP, we currently sit P5, 7 points behind Mercedes, and we're going to jump straight to looking at some upgrades here. In the aerodynamic, we've got a minor front downforce upgrade by getting new forward floor fences, which will come in before Canada, and this upgrade will get us on par with Williams in terms of aero. And this weekend we do only have the one upgrade on the car, being the new status in the ERS, and McLaren and Red Bull stay on identical performance heading into Monaco, with neither of them bringing in any upgrades. Ferrari, on the other hand, do bring in an upgrade which pushes them a tiny bit ahead of Mercedes on paper. Another big jump in performance for ourselves, getting closer to Mercedes. Behind us, though, it is starting to spread out a little bit, with Aston Martin now pulling a little bit ahead of Williams as we now get ready for qualifying.
Now, if you ask anyone who's raced here, they'll tell you, nowhere in the world is more important to get a high qualifying position than here on the windy, chicaney, challenging streets of Monaco. We're about to set the grid for tomorrow's race, but potentially for the end of the race too. So welcome along, everyone, to the Monaco Grand Prix qualifying.
As Crofty said, it is the most important qualifying session of the season, as Norris goes fastest while we're exiting the final corner here in the first part of qualifying. And our first lap will put us into P5, which is not too bad. And on our second flying lap here, on the same set of tyres, we've gone for a cool down lap to recharge the battery and to cool off the tyres a little bit. We'll actually go up into P5, and at the end of the session, we'll see Lando Norris topping the session by 200ths to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen's in third, 3/10 behind. Sonny Hayes is in P4, only 200ths behind. Verstappen's are very close indeed. Myself in 6th, 4/10 behind. And knocked out in qualifying one, we'll find Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg, Oliver Behrman, Isaac Hadjar, Bortoleto, and Jack Doohan, as we start our next part of qualifying with a massive lockup and running very deep as Tsunoda goes fastest. And once again, now I'm just trying to overdrive the car to try and gain back all of that time, but we've had a very scrappy beginning to the middle sector here, and so now it's all going to be into the last sector where we try and make up all the time back. But you'll see there, we still managed to go purple though, even with all of those lockups. So I don't think anyone's really set a blistering middle sector there, as we're only 100th behind Kimi Antonelli when it came to the end of our first flying lap. This time around though, we haven't made any mistakes in that sector, and you can see there, we have absolutely blitzed the middle sector, and we are the fastest in Q2 by only 2/10 to Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris is in third, 3/10 behind, and Sonny Hayes, our teammate, makes it into P10 to get himself into Q3, and he's a second behind us. And knocked out in qualifying two is Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari, Liam Lawson, and Charles Leclerc making it both Ferraris now out of qualifying, and a poor result for someone who was a safe bet for pole position around the streets of Monaco. And then we will find Alex Albon and Lance Stroll also not making it into the final part of qualifying. And in that session, we only managed to use the one set of tyres. Well, I say only, it was a very good managed to use only the one set of tyres, which means that we've got two fresh sets of tyres to go into this next part of qualifying, as we now begin our second flying lap and our last flying lap of this session. And it was a pretty good first corner there. We used all of the curb available to us, and we are just up on our previous lap time now by a 10th of a second, flicking it through and around the casino and down into here. A little bit of a wall top, a little bit of a lock-up as well, and once again, locking up the wheel just ever so slightly, but we do run it a little bit deep there, going into the hairpin, and now it's all about getting the power down as we start to think about heading through the tunnel. No wheel spin, and it is going to be all now down to the ERS and the overtake button to make sure that we can try and get ourselves as much top speed as we can. Hit the brakes very, very late, but flick it left, flick it right to get ourselves out of that chicane and onto the power as soon as possible. Now we go left and we hit the wall on the exit there as we go into the swimming pool section now, and we hit the brakes and we ride it all over the curbs, but we're late onto the power though. We had to wait for the car to get settled after launching it over the curbs there, so that probably cost us more time than it was worth as we now head out the final corner, and it is 4.5 tenths. We've managed to find it. It's a purple middle sector, and that is going to be pole position, the most important pole position of the season by far. Around Monaco is going to be absolutely pivotal, and that changes everything for Sunday now in its pole position by only 0.04 of a second, and it feels very, very good to get that pole position after missing out by the smallest of margins in Saudi Arabia to Lando Norris. It was only like 0.01 of a second that we ended up losing that pole position by, and so this one is very, very sweet to get back over. But this time it is Yuki Tsunoda that we're ahead of. Max Verstappen finds himself in third, 3 tenths back.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That's how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco, then, is not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo. And although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Joshua Pearce lines up on pole position, and Yuki Tsunoda completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Russell, Antonelli, Hayes, Fernando Alonso, and Carlos Sainz, Gasly, Hamilton, Liam Lawson, and Leclerc, Albon, Stroll, Esteban Ocon, and Nico Hülkenberg, Behrman, Hadjar, Bortoletto, and Jack Doohan rounds off the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'd give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. Now, you're the racing driver in this partnership, so tell us about this racing driver. Put us in their shoes. How are they going to be feeling?
Well, you've got to be prepared, Crofty. Before you even step foot inside the car, you've got to know, you've got to have a pre-race game plan. You've watched videos before you get into the car of previous races gone by. You know where you have to place your car if X, Y, or Z happens in front of you or behind you. So having this clear game plan is absolutely essential before you get in the car.
Okay, radio check, radio check. Okay, you know this, but this track needs a lot of downforce, and as such, we're not going to have quite the same top speed as at other circuits. The good news, though, is that it's going to make our DRS even more powerful. So try to make the most of it in the race and quali if you can.
Alrighty, we have done all of the work on Saturday, which means if all goes to plan, hopefully we can walk out of here with a race win, our first race victory. But we'll change our strategy. It's a two-stopper, but it will stay a two-stopper. We'll start on the mediums, we'll move the hard tyres stint to the middle, and then we'll end on the mediums and hopefully have some good pace to the end. As now we wait for the lights to go out. And we're away for the Monaco Grand Prix here in Season 1. It's a very good race start for ourselves compared to the two Red Bulls that are on the hard tyres, and it will pull away and already pull out quite a pretty good gap. As behind us, it's Max Verstappen who's managed to jump Yuki Tsunoda and get himself now up into P2, which is going to be crucial for his World Championship with him ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. The two McLarens, they'll continue to go side by side. It's a battle between Piastri and Norris. And if we were to go for who's going to be in front for the World Championship, it is going to have to be Lando Norris, you would think. That would get the team orders to say, go in front. But as we've seen in real life, papaya rules, and these two drivers are good to keep racing against each other as they do make a little bit of contact there, but it is going to be Piastri ahead of Lando Norris. George Russell finds himself in P6. Our teammate Sonny Hayes has found himself up one position. He's now into P7. Antonelli, Alonso, and Pierre Gasly round out the top 10 here in the opening lap of this Grand Prix. We get our first objective of the race now in lap 7, and you can see that we haven't really been able to pull away from Max Verstappen. He's been hovering within our 1 second mark, and our first objective is to keep him behind us, because if we get stuck behind him or we let him through on those hard tyres, it could be quite costly to our overall race, and Yuki Tsunoda has fallen back. But a few laps later though, Tsunoda there, that gap has fallen down as we come into the lane for our first pit stop of the race, and this time around it will be for the hard compound tyre, so hopefully we don't get caught up in too much traffic. I'm hoping that Mark has done his job well, and we'll find ourselves in a little bit of clean air. Hopefully it's a good stop. 2.4 seconds as now we try and see. I'm trying to watch as I'm driving out of the lane here to see whereabouts I'm going to come in, and I'm hoping I can get ahead of Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be very close, but we do just get out of the pit lane ahead of Hamilton here, so we've got a few cars in front of us, but hopefully with these really fresh tyres here, 12 lap younger tyres, we can make some moves here, and we will into the chicane. We'll go and down the inside of Carlos Sainz. It's a very easy move, very late onto the brakes, and I've got a ton of confidence at the moment on these brand new tyres. Pierre Gasly is up next for us to try and get around, and you'll see just how much pace that we've currently got over these other drivers who haven't made their pit stop yet. I am pretty much pushing him all through this sector here, and even trying to show my nose to see if I can't get a move done down here, but in the end I'm going to try and use my better traction and a bit of overtake here to try and get ourselves much closer for this chicane coming up, and I'll actually have to lift out of it just slightly to make sure I don't rear end him, and down the inside we go and cut him off on the exit to make sure he can't try and come back at us, and that is now us up into P8. And Alonso is now up next, but first we've got another objective that we need to charge our ERS. It is running quite low, but that is because I'm dumping so much of it down the straights to try and gain all of the time down the straight to see if I can't send it into the next big braking zone. So we've now caught up to Fernando Alonso, but as I've been saying, with the ERS, it is now time to dump it and try and get ourselves into P6, but unfortunately we did have to lift off there. We still get the move done, but I had to figure out what way we're going to go. As now Max Verstappen comes into the lane, and this will be for... Actually, I don't know what tyre he would go for. It looks like it's another set of hard tyres. So Max Verstappen's going to be going for a 2-stopper because he would have to do the 2 compounds, and it's going to be hard, medium, I would expect, for Max Verstappen. Is now... Well, I thought Antonelli was just going slow. I didn't realise he was going to be coming into the pits, and we've now got really bad front wing damage. And that is going to be a very big mistake on my part. I cannot believe I have just done that. I've rear-ended Kimi Antonelli as he was trying to come into the pit, so we're going to stay out, and you'll see that we did get the option to jump straight into the pits for the mediums and then jump onto the softs, but I'm going to stay out and just see how we go pace-wise, as now Yuki Tsunoda will come into the pits from the lead of the Grand Prix, and it looked very close there on his exit with George Russell coming into the lane for his pit stopper, but no contact was made in the lane. We will go through to retake the lead of this Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso, he's yet to pit, so by this rate, I'm now thinking that he's going to be on the 1-stopper, because with this amount of laps left in the race, he's going to be doing very short stints. But Tsunoda has now got himself ahead of Max Verstappen through the pit stop phase. So is that a bit of a fumble from Red Bull, or is Tsunoda now starting to show a bit more pace as we do complete our objective to charge up the battery? And now that we're not trying to make any overtakes, we can try and charge up this battery, as there's a bit of a Fernando Alonso train returning to Monaco, and that is holding up the Tsunoda and Verstappen on those fresher tyres. And so by the time Alonso is now looking to come into the lane for his one and only pit stop here in Monaco, we have now got ourselves a 5.5 second lead, nearly 6 second lead, and so hopefully that is going to be enough of a buffer for us to have a bit of a lengthier pit stop to repair our front wing. We'll change the front wing, but you'll see a few laps later now, Mark is actually going to get us to jump into the lane a lot earlier than we were expecting, and that gap has been plummeting down. It is now only 3 seconds, and it's only been a couple of laps. So our pace has definitely fallen off massively since that incident, and we'll do an auto check here. So we're leading the way by the 2 Red Bull Tsunoda ahead of Verstappen. That's Piastri, Russell, Norris, our teammate in P7, Kimi Antonelli, and after that contact with us, he is still in P8. Liam Lawson, Pierre Gasly Hamilton, Sainz, Hadjar, Leclerc down in P14, Hulkenberg, Alonso is coming out the pits in P16. Then it's Alex Albon, Doohan, Behrman, Bortoleto, Stroll, and Esteban Ocon rounding out the field as we now come in for our second pit stop a lot earlier than we were expecting, but we just need to get this front wing off. You'll see in that, just in that lap, they caught up another second and a half, nearly 2 seconds. So our pace was just absolutely nowhere. So I think it's going to be better off if we do come in earlier and try and just make the moves on track. I've got the confidence to be able to make these moves on track. I'm feeling very good behind the wheel at the moment, which is exactly what you would want around a circuit just like this. Monaco, you'll only get the pace once you've got the confidence, and the confidence is absolutely oozing out at the moment. We've been setting the fastest laps of the race, and I reckon even with this longer second stint, we're still on for a good shot at a victory here, as Esteban Ocon's had an engine failure. So this was all happening while we were busy doing other stuff on the circuit, repairing the front wing and all the other fun stuff, as now we're looking to try and get ourselves past Carlos Sainz. We've got so much pace, we're going to try and show the nose down the last corner, and we made contact with the wall. No damage was made, but I'm going to take that note down, and that is not going to be another passing opportunity, and I've learnt my lesson to not do that again. As now, at the same corner, just behind us, Alex Albon has had an incident. He's blocked the track at the final corner. Is this going to be a safety car? No! It's going to be a red flag. So this is going to really, really hamper our race here, because we'll be restarting the race in, I'm going to say, P11. So this has absolutely ruined our race, and the strategy there is now going to be brand new hard tyres to the end of the race. The mediums could make it, but the tyre wear is going to be pretty bad towards the end. So brand new hard tyres for the start of this race, and hopefully we can use these tyres to try and get ourselves a bit further up the grid here as we start for the second time here in Monaco. Hamilton's had a wicked start from P10 and finds himself now down the inside of Lawson to try and take away that 9th position, as now we take away that P10 from Liam Lawson. So we've just robbed Lawson of some points there in the V-Cub there, and we've now got a bit of a struggle actually trying to get these tyres up a temperature, and so now we're going to be trying to see if we can't make any moves while the field is compacted together. And so we're going to swing it out down the inside into the hairpin. We had to slam the brakes extra hard to try and not hit Gasly, and the car nearly went into like an anti-stall there. We slowed down so much. We actually did make contact with Gasly according there to the FIA. We got a little bit of a warning with that one, so you know, that's our first incident of the Grand Prix, or well, warning of the Grand Prix, I'm pretty sure. We didn't even get one for Antonelli, and now we're being asked to keep the tyre wear under. What is going on? It has only been 2 laps. We can't have worn the tyres this much. Has the team put on the tyres that we not started the race on, but did our middle stint with? Because there is no way that in 2 laps I have put 30% wear on these tyres. There's just absolutely no way. And you can see the gap is now spread out to 4 seconds as we've hit the wall going into the swimming pool section, and that is us over and out. It was looking so good of a Grand Prix. Despite our contact with Antonelli, it was looking like we could have still got a win.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
And with 5 race victories now in a row, Crofty, I mean, do we just give them the trophy now? It's for the others, surely, to try and stop that, because if that's how we're feeling, what must they be feeling as the competition for them? But I mean, what competition is there? They're running away with this championship as we speak.
It's time for our podium celebrations. And as ever in Formula One, 3 is the magic number. One of the all-time greats celebrates yet again. It's another podium, it's another top step for Max Verstappen.
I'm just still absolutely lost for words that I've just done that, and the race has just unfolded. But we can't take away the moment from Max Verstappen as he makes it now 5 race victories in a row. Yuki Tsunoda will make it a Red Bull 1-2 here in Monaco, and George Russell's up on the podium as well. And yeah, the race was just going so well despite the contact with Antonelli. We still had the good pace, but the red flag was the end of it, and I don't know what happened, if the team grabbed the wrong set of hards or yeah, just what happened. But on my strategy screen, they were brand new hards, and they definitely were not brand new hard tyres. So in the end, we'll take a look at the rest of the top 10. It's Sonny Hayes in P4. That's his best performance of the season. Norris, Hamilton, Antonelli, Gasly, Leclerc, and Sainz all make it inside the top 10. Myself and Ocon, the only non-finishers, as Max Verstappen extends his championship lead to 47 points over Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda moves into third, 83 points behind. Myself in 8th, 14 points behind Charles Leclerc, and Hayes in P11. He is on equal points with Pierre Gasly for P10 and 7 points behind Jack Doohan. Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 57 points to McLaren, and Ferrari are in third, 118 points behind APXGP. We're in P5, 16 points behind Mercedes, as we have won our rivalry against Yuki Tsunoda for our driver ratings, which is a heap of focus gained. And speaking of our driver ratings, our experience has lost some points, but our racecraft awareness and pace have gained some points, with the focus jumping up to level 80 thanks to that victory in the rivalry, and an overall level now of 84. Our driver recognition has taken a knock with that result, dropping it back to 54%, but it could have been much worse of a result. So in the end, we had plenty of positives coming out of Monaco, but it's definitely not the way we wanted it to end. So that will be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next episode, where we take to the streets of Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix.